Hello. So this is gaining support for data science projects through data. There's a poll that should be open now. Yep. And go ahead and please let me know who you are. Are you a business leader leveraging technology solutions? Do you work in IT or do you work for a technology vendor? Thank you. Just give it a minute. And while you guys are filling that in, I'll give you my quick introduction. My name is Nechama Katan. I am a wicked problem wizard, and my interest is in helping organizations launch and successfully implement technical solutions. So, all right. So it looks like we've got a mix of people here between business leaders and technology vendors. And if anyone else wants to fill in the poll, feel free to go ahead and do that. You can also send me messages on chat, because I would like to make this interactive so that we can, just will be much more fun for everyone. All right, so one moment, okay. So gonna end, so sharing results of the poll looks like, a mix of technology vendors and IT people. All right. So if everyone can see my message, if anyone can't see my screen, let me know. And otherwise, we'll just get started. Okay. So just quick leveling here on language and format. So there's a lot of words that get used and misused in this environment. The first is leader. A leader is someone who sets a direction. When I first learned about this, we thought of it as, the person who climbs up the tree and looks out and says, okay, we're going that way. The manager is the person who gets the organization there. That's the person who gets us from step A to step B to step C. Users, you guys, are addicts. They are not software users. There's a great quote out there. I don't know who said it first, but the only two industries that have users are illegal drugs and software. So for the purpose of this presentation, we're not going to talk about end users or users. Instead, we're going to talk about partners and customers. And I understand that customer is a kind of a funny term because who's your customer? But really, when you're doing a technology project, your customer is whoever is going to be impacted by that technology. That can be an internal customer or an external customer. And partners is an alternative to customers if you're co-developing something with someone. And I'm going to argue that all good projects are co-developed with your clients and your customers. All right. And then finally, leading projects is a full contact sport. So in this particular workshop, expect to be busy. Pull yourself out a pen or a paper. Go ahead and put something into chat if you want. But we're going to have kind of three sections to each parts of this. The first is the why, while I explain why a particular part of the process is important. The second is how, which is how would I implement it? And I've got a scenario that we're going to work on. And then the final is practice, where you guys get to do practicing. Someone always puts in chat where the slides, you can find the slides at this link at the bottom, wickedproblemwizards.com/data. There's the slides and there's some other assessments there as well. All right, so for the agenda, we're going to talk about this data process, which is define, advocate, team, and act. It sounded nice, so those are the words we get stuck with. The first half is around gaining support and buy-in and its significance. So if you can go in and put into chat, just because I like to have a better sense of who you guys are. How many of you guys are working on a current project? And just go ahead and throw it in chat if you're working on a current project or you have one that's coming up soon. So we're going to talk first about getting support for a project. So are you in a current project or are you working on a project that's ongoing? So the first challenge with technology projects is getting that first, getting your management or whoever the leadership is to say, yes, let's fund this project, right? And that's where the define and the advocate is very, very important. And then once you've got funding for the project, we all know 80% of technical projects fail. And that's because you need successful adoption integration, and that's the team and the act part. And then following up with the next steps. Any questions? Nobody is putting anything in chat. You guys want to put where you're located in chat so I know that chat works? Nope. Okay. Houston, thank you. At least now I know if chat works. Okay, great. So please ask your questions in chat so that I know, that we're making sense. So the second poll, and we can not do this as a poll, we can just do this in chat, which is, are you currently leading or proposing a project to your organization? Yes or no? And actually, Vimal, if you can throw up another poll, that would be great. Nope. Okay. All right. We'll just throw it in chat. It's a small group. Okay. So it's always useful to kind of imagine where you would be at the end of a project. So, or what the goal of a workshop like this is going to be. So what I would like you to do is start with, imagine leadership support. And what it looks like is you get support from leadership for your data science projects, and they're willing to allocate resources. So support from management generally means money or time or people, right? Do you have people willing to to work on your project? Support from your customers and partners is early adopters ready to use your solution and having to turn away potential users. Oh, I use the term users here. Sorry, potential customers. So the real pity happens when you've spent millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars or years of your life, and now you can't get anyone to actually use your tool. So, or to be your customer. And so this is where you kind of have two different sets. And the goal of this workshop is to get you to the point where you have that kind of support, or you could know how you could build your solution for this kind of support. So why buy-in and what is its significance? So leadership buy-in is funding for projects and time allocated for improvement work. Many, many, many people work in organizations where the organization gets paid to produce a certain amount of work. And that's a fee-for-service type of an organization. And when you have a fee-for-service organization, then all the people working are trying to do billable hours. They're trying to get enough time showing that they are doing their actual job and that they're adding value. But I don't know how many of you guys have been trying to do a day job and realizing that the actual job doesn't quite work and that there's issues and that you would like to be able to fix those processes. Has anyone got a process issue in their life right now that's not working? I do, right? So let me give an example. Yeah, lots, right, Kel? Do you want to maybe share one of them? I was in a meeting this morning with an organization that people were trying to locate some specific type of information. So somebody had found where it was being presented on a website, but you had to go in and eyeball it. You couldn't even copy paste that information. You had to scroll through hundreds of lines, right? So that's not helpful if I need to go and get the status of 100 widgets to have to scroll through each line. So instead of having to do that, so then the next thing is, oh, well, there's a bunch of tools that will allow someone to fix that process, but someone has to raise their hand and say, hey, I've got an afternoon, I'm going to go dig at the tools and find the right report so that going forward, we don't need to spend the time looking for data. So that's the reason for time allocated on improvement work. And then the second is this business partner customer buy-in. So what typically works with buy-in is when you co-develop solutions. So Carol mentioned getting the business to use an enterprise data warehouse. The issue is trust. Do people trust the data? Generally, the data is probably fine. The question is, do they trust the presentation of the data? and the assumptions made behind how you joined that data. So if you co-develop it with them, then the customer is more likely to buy into that and trust with it. And then the second question with customer buy-in is, are you solving a problem that they have, or do they have the problem that you're solving for? So the example that I love for this one is, if you're a car dealership, a car salesman, and some old guy shows up with this old beat up car, and you go up to him and say, hey, dude, I've got the best car for you ever. You know, you're in this beta, we can help you, we can get you in a nice new car and everything else. And the guy looks at you and says, dude, this is the car that my father and I rebuilt. Right? The guy loves his car. He doesn't want a new car. So trying to sell him a new car is not helpful. Selling him, on the other hand, on ways to keep that car that he's deeply attached to working, that's a problem. Yeah. So you really want to make sure that what you're solving for actually works. Okay. Any questions so far on buy-in or significance? And yeah, so Carol, I get that. When you keep swapping tools, that confuses everyone and makes people kind of get lost. All right, so I picked a general scenario for the purpose of this workshop. I'll be honest, I think I either Googled this or found it on ChatGPT. So, you know, imagine that you're an AI machine learning data scientist, right? We're all data science leaders here. And you're trying to get support for a chatbot or / virtual assistant that you know will leverage NLP algorithms and RNNs and provide 24/7 personalized support to the customers. So you're like, this would be really cool. We could use all this cool technology and we could get our customer support, right? 24/7. So this would be lead in a good example of how you would lead with technology. And most of us lead with technology. Even I did when I wrote the title for this workshop. It said data first. No one cares about data. They might process. What they care about is, can I get projects to work, and can I get support for them? Okay, so I promised you guys a why, a how, and then a practice. So the first step is why. So you're going to define the problem you're trying to solve. So when you go to do problem definition, the problem is not, how do I use NLP and RNNs? That is not the problem. Okay, any ideas on chat of what the problem statement here would be? So we want to think about what the problem is that we're trying to solve. So the first thing to think about is, you're giving a problem to leadership, and leadership is motivated by a number of different things. The first thing they're motivated by nowadays is fear and scarcity. Is their job going to be taken away? Right? Most of us report to mid-level managers. If we're first-level managers, we report to mid-level managers. Mid-level managers always get hit with layoffs. So they are afraid of getting laid off. They're afraid of looking or feeling stupid. They're afraid of not enough resources to do all of the projects. They're afraid of their departments getting eliminated. So you've got to understand that kind of fear and scarcity. Now we want to think about that looking and feeling stupid. So when we come in and start talking about complicated models or random forest plots or distributed cloud networks or any number of other super cool snowflake, SQL, star schemas, different layers of data, reporting layers and analytics layers and analysis ready data sets, generally their eyes are going to glaze over. And their eyes are going to glaze over, not because they're not interested, but because they don't have any clue what you're talking about. And they're not going to say, hey guys, I don't know what you're talking about. They either don't have the time to get educated, or they don't feel that it's safe to ask, or they just can't be bothered. So you need to be really conscious, particularly the deeper you get in those technology stacks, about how you're presenting stuff, and it's not a matter of dumbing things down. It's a matter of making them accessible. So managers are focused on 15, 20, 30 things. You're focused on one. You know your one thing very well. They're never going to know that one thing as well as you do. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, is that managers need a problem solved. So the third thing here is fixing problems. So you need to be able to fix the problems that they have. And their problems are generally given to them from their senior managers. In any large organization, or if it's a small business, their problem is revenue. It's how do we bring in enough revenue or cut cost. Okay, so you need to understand what is their problem, and it's time, money, customers, quality, right? It's never something that involves a technical term. Then, particularly in larger groups, your boss's job is making their boss look good. So their boss comes to them and say, hey, we just got hit by a customer complaint about something, go fix it. Right? So that person's going to come to you and say, I've been told to go fix it. I don't know how to fix it. They're not going to say that. They're going to say to you, would you go fix it? Right? So they're just passing that problem down so that you can fix it, so that they can go back to their boss and say, hey, we fixed it. Right? So they're motivated by making their boss look good, but also by doing their job, right? Their job is to do what the boss tells them to do. And your job is to do what your boss tells you to do. And so it's this food chain. It really is a food chain. Recognition and rewards. And then probably the one thing that managers really want to do, but have most likely the hardest time doing, is actually making things better for other people. So for many managers and leaders, they would love to lead within making things better for other people, but they don't even know how to. Right? Or they don't have the tools, or they think it's going to cost money, or they don't have the time to worry about it. So you want to just be aware of all these other deeper reasons here for why a problem that you're trying to solve may or may not resonate with your leader. So let's talk about how you would do this. Well, technical people, so the easiest thing to do is just keep asking questions. So in our example, we were going to use NLPs and RNNs to provide customer support. So the first question I would ask is, one, do we have customers? Sometimes people don't have customers, right? They don't have customers using the tool. But let's ask, do you have customers? Assuming you have customers, when are the customers on the tool? Are they, and you can pull your usage logs, find out when the customers are present. If it turns out that you've got a bunch of customers who are on all hours of the night and day, now you need 24/7 customer support. If you have customers that are only on a couple times a day, do you need 24/7 customer support? Maybe, maybe not. Is there something else that you need to be working on rather than customer support, but rather, I'm going to pick on you, pick is too strong of a term here. Carol pointed out, getting people to use a tool is a problem. Maybe the problem is that the customers aren't logging on at all, in which case customer support isn't the problem. If customer support is a real need, then what's driving that real need of customer support is customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction goes to referral rate and net promoter score. Have you guys heard of net promoter scores? Go ahead and throw up in chat if you guys have heard of that as a term. It's a marketing term if you haven't heard of it. A net promoter score says, you ask your customer, would you recommend this tool to someone else? And if you're above on a 1 to 10, if you're above an 8 or a 9, you're good. If you're less than an 8 or a 9, you've got a problem. Then you're worried about revenue from the customers, cost to replace the customers, and also finally issues with the solution that requires support. So another way to fix the support problem is to have a tool that doesn't need so much support, right? I mean, that's always the option. So you'd want to really dig in at your problem here and ask yourself, what exactly am I solving for and what is the real business need behind this problem, and try to really define the lowest level of that problem. And the lowest level of that problem is probably the cost to replace customers. If you're worried about customer support, once you've got a customer, you want to keep them. And so then you want to say, okay, based on the need to keep a customer, you would go back and sell. Here's an example. I have it here. So we're going to increase customer retention and net promoter score. So that's keep the customer and have them tell their friends to buy the software through the use of a chatbot for additional 24/7 support. Okay. What you guys should see here is that what I've done is I've changed the problem from a, hey, go fund my cool technical project, to let me help you solve a business problem. Feel free to put in chat. Do you guys know the business problems you guys are trying to solve? And have you thought about using business language like this to propose technical problems in the past? Is this a new idea to you guys? Is this something you guys have heard a lot of? I'm just looking for chat for you guys to think about this. I want to make this as interactive as possible, because if you guys give me some feedback, then I've got a chance of doing this. Okay, so I'm going to admit right now, this is Marketing 101. It comes out of a book called Story Branding. And I know we don't want to think of ourselves as salespeople, but the truth of the matter is technical people and data scientists are salespeople. Not in the bad sense of the word, but in the good sense of the word. We're the ones who are connecting what the company needs to data science solutions. So in that example I gave earlier today, there was a group of people trying to find a data field. It turns out 2 phone calls later, or actually a Teams chat, and a meeting later, I found all the information they needed. They have their solution. So am I selling anything? No. But I need to be able to connect value, connect value to our technology so that it can be used. All right, so what I want you guys to do is spend a couple minutes. I'm actually going to be quiet for a minute, or watch the chat while you guys do this. So pick a scenario. If you've got an ongoing product, and so Carol posted that you're not selling a product, it's a modeled solution. But why the modeled solution? So we can go through that example if you want, Carol, here. But I want you to define the problem you're trying to solve for. And so Carol's problem looks like it's data engineering. And I'm gonna go through this slide, and then I'm gonna walk through Carol's project, because she's posted some stuff in chat where I can see it. So what is your project? What is the actual real underlying problem? What are you trying to solve for? And then throw your responses in chat. I don't know if you guys can all see them. I don't think you can, but if you can, great. And if not, I can read them out. So Carol is looking at getting the business to use an enterprise data warehouse and the regularly changing tools that the business is able to use to access the enterprise warehouse, having them build a pipeline versus having to have seamless connections to the data, Azure to SQL Server versus Snowflake to SQL Server. Snowflake to SQL Server requires building pipelines. So the question is, what is the project? Here, the project is this enterprise data warehouse. And what is the best way to access the data in that data warehouse? Is it to do some type of processing, as I'm guessing when you mean by when you say pipeline? Okay, so are we selling? So they're providing a platform to access the data in the warehouse for modeling and reporting. So this is a very common problem. You have a operational database that's functioning stuff, and it turns out that the operational transactional databases have never worked well for reporting. They don't have the right hooks, and they're optimized for speed. data entry, not for actual speed of analytics. So then you need to throw a layer on top. And you throw a layer on top, and then you throw a tool on top of that. And the question is, what kind of a tool do you do? Do you do a self-service click Spotfire Tableau type tool, right? Which allows people to go in and grab the data they want out of the warehouse and process it? Do you do something that has cubes, which is where you've pre-structured the data so that the right questions can be answered? So these are all, I'm going down this deep technical problem, right? But let's roll it back up for a minute here and say, okay, the project is not the data warehouse. The project here is, and the business wants to build so Carol put it in chat, the business often wants to build themselves. Okay, so the problem is not that they need a data warehouse. That's not the problem. Okay, the problem is that the business wants to use their data, and it is the business's data, it's not IT's data. Business wants to use their data to make business decisions, and they want to be able to do it quickly. Okay, and generally working with an IT department is not a quick way to building your, to giving answers to questions. So the surveys as of, it was 10 years ago, I saw a report, basically said that most managers want to have an answer to a data problem within 20 minutes. There's no way if the business, if the manager, let's say a director wants an answer to a data problem in 20 minutes, there's no way that that's going to happen if they have to call up an IT lead who calls up a BA who gets requirements, and then they come and looking over the requirements, and then they come back 6 months later, $100,000 for an answer to a question that's 6 months old. So that's the real problem, is that they need quick answers. The secondary problem to that is that you need to be able to give them high quality answers that are secure, right? You're not violating customer confidentiality. You're not surfacing data that you shouldn't surface. There's a whole bunch of governance. And if you're in a regulated industry, there's even more governance. And if you're in Europe, forget it. You can't look at data at all. So the real problem here is, how does the business access data to make decisions? And what you're solving for is decision support. So what you need to be able to do is find out what questions those senior managers need to answer. And those questions are usually where's the money? Which customers are high value, which customers are low value. I'm going to make assumptions about the business. Where are the quality risks, etc. So you need to find out what are those questions that you're solving for. And then you need to sit with the business and say, all right, let's get 10 or 15 problems or questions that you typically try to ask. Let's build you a governed environment where you can ask those questions. And they're going to say, yeah, that's great. But the answer is never in the format I need. So I dump the data to Excel and finish. And IT says, dump it to Excel, I've lost governance. But what you need to do then is sit with them and sort out each of those points. But the real problem here is, how do you get the right information to the person trying to make a data-driven decision? That's the question. And that's the problem. The problem is not, how do I build an enterprise data warehouse? They don't care about enterprise data warehouses, except for someone read a Harvard Business Review article that told them they needed to, right? Anyone else have a problem statement they'd like to put in terms of defining a problem? But you see how we've gone from the projects in enterprise data warehouse to the real problem they're trying to solve for here is data-driven decision-making. And actually, why do they want to do data-driven decision-making? Nobody does data-driven decision-making because they feel like it. They do it because they want to increase revenue, increase sales, increase customer retention. But this is not data science. That is a very good question. So is this data science? Yes, this is still data science. This is the softer side of data science, which is how do we go from being technical and creating technical solutions that people will use? If we only do the data science that's cool technical shit, but nobody uses it, we're back to the question of if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one to hear it, did it make any noise? So we need, as data scientists, to understand what is going on in the business, because the business does not understand the data science and doesn't understand what's technically possible. Okay, so then the second thing, and this is a little counterintuitive, so I want everyone to take a deep breath, because it kind of got me when I first saw it. It was like, whoa, what am I doing here? You need to advocate, and you need to make the leader the hero. So whoever you are selling something to is the hero. And you're like, yeah, but it's my project. I want to be the hero. Yeah, you can be the hero some other day. Okay. When you're selling your project or you're getting support for your project, you are here to help someone else solve their problem. Okay. So if you get on a webpage and there's a bio about me, oh, I'm at this and I'm at that and I've done this and I've done that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. They care about themselves. It's not that they're selfish. They're just tired and overwhelmed, and they've got too much stuff going on. So your job is to help whoever it is. So I'm going to keep using that example of the customer support just for a second here. So if I'm going to the head of a company and say, hey, I can get you this cool customer support app, what do they need? You're not going to say to them, hey, let me write you a cool app. You're going to say to them, hey, guess what? You got this problem of people wanting to use your software, but there's bugs in every software, or it's a complicated tool to use. So we need to have better support, but I've got this really cool way to make a bot that actually works, as opposed to some of the bots you get online and it says, we're sorry, we can't help you, or forward your comment to someone when it's working hours, right? Like an actual real bot that works, it feels like I'm talking to someone. So you need to go to them and say, hey, let me help you solve this business problem, okay? They are the hero. It is their quest, and if it is their quest, then they will own it. And if they own it, then they will support it. So let me say that again. If they own it, they will support it. So if they say, hey, yeah, I've got this customer service problem, and Paul or Carol is going to come and help me write this cool bot that's going to solve this customer support problem. And now my customers are going to be happy. I'm going to go sell that to my management because I understand the need for it and I understand why it's important, and I'm going to own it. So let's think about, I got COVID in December, and so I watched Lord of the Rings again. Well, a bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff, right? And I'm assuming most of you guys watched Lord of the Rings. So you've got Sam and you have Frodo. And really, for the bulk of the movie, it was all about Sam supporting Frodo. Frodo didn't do much. Sam was the one who made that ring get to where it was going, but he supported him. So, you know what? Let Frodo be the hero and Sam will be the support person. But if you want to sell a project, you've got to get it. You know, when I was starting out, everyone said, well, make sure that, you know, if someone thinks it's their own idea, let them steal your idea. It's not about stealing your idea. It's about having them own and really deeply believe in the solution. And the best way to do it is to make them the hero. Okay, so how? So what does your leader need? How do you help them meet that goal? What will make them look good? What will help the organization? Again, you're going to make the leader the hero by phrasing the need in a way that has a business context to it. Because without that business context, you're not going to be aligned. But the other thing to keep in mind here is this is not just good sales and marketing. You don't actually know what's needed until you've gotten a really good sense of what the problem statement is. And sitting from the technology side, you're never going to figure that out on your own. So you need that leader to sit with you for hours and hours and hours and explain exactly what it is that they're looking for and what the need is. And so this will give you that opportunity to do that. So here's the scenario. Again, we're going to increase customer retention, and your leader, so let's say Susan, can reduce customer turnover and increase the net promoter score with the help of a chatbot. Now I have phrased this in a way that allows your leader to go back to their management and say, hey, I can fix a problem. Let me fix the problem for you. Okay. I've left NPS here because that's a business acronym. I would never leave, right? But now we're back to a chatbot. Mostly because at this point, I think everyone knows what a chatbot is. Okay, so again, you want to make sure that you take your ego out of it. You can go home and have your ego someplace else. But for the purpose of partnering with customers to make sure that your data science solution works for that customer, you need to be the guide. You need to be that trusted advisor who helps them. So practice. Someone else wants to throw an example up, we can throw up another example, but what does your leader need? How do you help them meet their goal? What will make them look good? What will help the organization? Go ahead and put a sentence or two in chat. I'm going to give you guys a minute to think through this. I don't know if you guys can hear the background noise or not. They're doing construction on my street. Okay, so again, let's go back to that enterprise data warehouse. What we've decided the business problem is that they need to increase some key business metrics: sales, decrease cost, increase revenue, decrease cost, reduce time, improve quality. So your tool is going to help that business leader meet that goal, right? You're not going to meet the goal. You're going to help the business leader meet that goal. Because once you've got that business leader as a partner, then the flip side of this, which is customer acceptance, comes much easier. Okay, so so again, let's just review that acronym. We have data, we have D, which is define, A, which is advocate. So those are our first two around leadership. And then the bottom two are going to be team and act. And those are going to be pointed towards your customers and your partners. So why team up for input and partnership? So I've got a nice little picture here of a train to nowhere. You need to be listening to your partners so that you actually solve the real problems and you're not creating a high-speed train that goes nowhere. So the example that I give is if I have a high-speed train between Boston and New York, and instead of going to Midtown Manhattan, it goes to the South Bronx, which if you're not from the Northeast, is not a fun neighborhood. And it's about a 10-mile hike from the South Bronx down to Midtown Manhattan, where most businesses are. Doesn't help, right? It doesn't help if I've created a 30-minute train between Boston and New York, if when they get off that train, they have a 2-hour highly dangerous walk to get to their final destination where they're going. Okay. So there's a lot of technical projects that I have worked on. We have all worked on technical projects where you've created a solution that almost gets you there. You've created a dashboard, you've created a model, almost works, but 90% of the time it works. That's not bad, right? Well, if 90% of the time it works, and then for the rest of the 10%, they dump the data into Excel and they run pivot tables on it, you've lost everything, because you've lost this automated system into someone downloading everything, dumping in it, building a pivot table, throwing some formulas on it. And now all the savings from that solution gets killed in that last mile. So it's called the last mile problem in shipping. Usually the last mile of your Amazon, delivering your Amazon package costs as much as all the rest of transportation in the supply chain. So you need to understand how your solution fits into this bigger need and what are the real business needs, not just the requirements. So they will give you requirements because we have taught the business to give us requirements. Not only have we taught the business to give us requirements, we then beat the business up with those requirements. Oh, something changed. Oh, it wasn't in the requirements. I don't need to write it. Okay, that's not a partnership. So you really need to team up and partner to understand what is that end-to-end solution. What are they doing before they enter your space? What are they doing after they leave your space? And if the whole time is 3 hours and you shrink the time in the middle to 5 minutes, but the time on the outside expands, you haven't helped anyone. So how? You're going to ask a lot of open-ended questions. You're going to shadow their work. If at all possible, have someone shadow the process. There is nothing. I was in a vendor meeting, actually, where I wanted to show something about how the tool worked. And I happened to have had a captive audience, so to speak. And I'm sitting there clicking around, and lo and behold, there's this bug. Something isn't even sorted. I got 100 items and I need to find one of them to select something, and they're not in order, and I can't select it. They had no idea that feature didn't work. They had no idea how I was using the tool. Most tools get defined, including ours, for Happy Path, right? I get up, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, I'm done. Okay. Unfortunately, while Happy Path is this wonderful thing that happens, what really happens is all the screwy stuff that happens around that Happy Path. So you get up and you can't find your password. Now you found your password, but somehow you lost your pencil, or your phone isn't charged, or whatever it is that's messing up your Happy Path. You need a piece of information, and it turns out that your email. You used to store everything in email because you have plenty of space, and then now your email is being limited. So now you've deleted that piece of information. You have no idea how to find a link that you knew existed 3 years ago, and the search window on the internet doesn't, on the intranet doesn't work. And so you can't find it. And then you have to go bother someone, and you're like, forget it, I can't do it. Okay. So you need to shadow them and see where it is that they're actually spending time and how the current process works. You need to then, this is basically design thinking 101. You need to offer your partners early feedback into possible solutions. So when I was doing dashboard systems, but you can do this with AI machine learning models, get that chatbot up. Throw it at your maybe not your end users, but the business people, and say, hey, run this for a while, see what it looks. And when they tell you it sucks, you say thank you. You do that again. And they tell you it sucks. What do you say? You say thank you. Because when they stop giving you feedback, you've lost them. When nobody says anything, they've gone to sleep. They're not paying attention. They're not part of the conversation. And they've already checked out, and they're not going to engage your solution. And then you need to test end-to-end solutions. And if you think end-to-end is just what's in scope for you, you're wrong. You need to go back at least a couple hours, or however you define your process, and forward. So you need that complete end-to-end, as far as end-to-end as you can get, to do that. All right, so the scenario here. You're going to ask your customer support about what are the current support issues. What people get called, everyone's got a ticket system. Go get the customer support data and find out what the current support issues are. And then schedule time with some of the customer support people and say, hey, can you tell me what kinds of questions are people asking? And they'll say, oh, the customers can't find files. And you'll be like, yeah, but what are they asking? Right? Because it might be what language are they using to even ask to find files? Do they even know there's files that they should be finding? Do they know what kind of format that data should be sitting in? Are there other ways to improve customer support besides a chatbot? Maybe your answer of a chatbot isn't the answer. Maybe the customer support, well, here's an example. the customer support people, do they have the answer? So a customer calls them up. I call someone up and say, hey, what about this? Took a car into a service scene. I have a warranty on something. I said, all right, so how do I file something on this warranty? And the answer is, oh, no. So really, the person who's providing customer support doesn't know. Maybe they need the chatbot or something like that so that they can provide better customer support. And in fact, that'd be a great way to test it, right? Because your internal customer support people are going to be way more forgiving than your customers, your external customers. When do customers reach out to support teams? Are they actually online 24/7? Do you have peak hours? Do you have, I'd hate to be the IRS chatbot this week, right? I'm sure it's overwhelmed, right? Do you have latency issues? So you want to really understand what are those bigger pictures. Any questions? You guys are being quiet on me. Okay, 1 second. So let's practice. Think back of your project and how do you team up for input and partnership? Your goal is that your quote unquote users go from being drug addicts to partners. Think about that, right? You need partners. And which parts of the process do you interface with? I have worked on I have worked on multiple projects. I can't think of any project actually that I've worked on that hasn't at some point had an interface problem. Meaning, all this really cool shit, right? All this really neat analysis and you've got insights and you've got outputs and you hit a barrier and you have to send this analysis to someone else. And what are you given? In this particular situation I'm thinking of, a tweet, 250 characters, no graphics, no special characters, just 250 characters to explain the problem. But I had 2 hours of analysis. I have to explain it in 250 characters. So there's the one side that says, well, if you don't really understand your problem, you can't explain it. On the other side, you've got pictures that is worth 1,000 words. So, where are your interfaces? Because every place those interfaces happen, you end up creating friction. So you get friction coming into your tool, you get friction leaving your tool. And it's how do I deal with that friction? Okay, the final one, act. 10 minutes left, so we're about right on time. You act by listening and following up on issues. So I have an assessment. It's not quite built out yet on my webpage, but there's a couple things you need to know. First of all, whatever tool or solution you have will have bugs. It will have bugs. It doesn't always work. That's number one. Number two is it won't really work the way you want it to. And more importantly, it's not going to work the way your customer wants it. So years ago, I had a tool that I was managing, and I took it to a marketing person, and the marketing person says, okay, 1 second, Marta, I'll answer your comment in a second. You have a tool or a solution, and so I had an analytics solution, and it pushed out some answers. And they're like, well, that's great, but we need it formatted differently. So they would dump it into Excel, the output data, and dump it into Excel and move on. I was like, no, don't. And so what did I need to do? I needed to sit with them and say, okay, show me how you do your work. And then we fixed it. And they're like, and then we would fix it for a while and I'd move stuff around and it would spit out a better output. And that worked. And then we went to a finance manager and he's like, no, I've got my Excel spreadsheet. I just want the raw data. I'm going to put everything into my Excel. And I'm like, yeah, it's great, but it's not control. And so we had to sit with him and really understand what exactly it was. It might have worked the way I thought it should work, but it was not going to work the way my partner needed. So if the partner is almost completed and the partner doesn't want to solve the conflicts at all, what should one do? If you have a bunch of problems on your solution and the person who bought the solution from you doesn't want to fix anything, they'll never use the solution. So you might get paid or you might not get paid, but and paid internally means whatever it means if you're internal versus external. But if the person you're working with isn't willing to talk to you about what's wrong and how to fix things, then at that point, that relationship has to be fixed. And that some of that is this act by listening. So the trick is in how you respond to the conflicts. You need to sit down and say, yep, made a mistake. I made a mistake. So I was on a project where Happy Path worked great. You took the data from a graph database and you moved it into something cool, and it had a GUI interface and it applied some cool logic and it did neat things. The minute something wasn't Happy Path and didn't work, it didn't work. Completely fell apart. And the programmer was like, well, but you're supposed to go Happy Path. It's like, great. People don't always go Happy Path. Okay. So you need to have defensive programming, and defensive programming says, oh, here are common mistakes people make, or, oh, do you understand what you're doing here? Have you thought through this answer? And every time you start getting defensive, you have to say, oh, nope. At this point, the answer is the customer or the partner is always right. Customer or the partner is always right here. So you need to step back and say, okay, show me what's wrong. Show me what's wrong. Show me where the conflict is. Sometimes you need to bring in a third party. And I've seen this happen a lot, where the relationships are just really bad. And then you bring in a third party, a consultant who can sit down and talk to everyone and get everyone back at the table. Because once you stop talking to each other and you're doing this, then you can't resolve these problems. And then you need to know how you can lead so that others will give you a chance. But this is really about acting, and acting is saying, yes, there's a problem. Let me help you fix it. Okay. How? You're going to ask questions. You're going to watch your customers use the tool. You're going to understand what's not working. You're going to support your customers with workarounds. So you're going to say, okay, it doesn't work. Sorry, but here's a workaround while I make a fix. Does that help? Okay. You are not going to take it personally. You are not going to take it personally. They need to get their job done. They can like you passionately. They can think you're the nicest person on the planet, but if they can't get their job done, they won't like you. So don't take it personally. It's got nothing to do with you. Tools don't work well the first or second or third time, and you need to iterate. So it's iteration and teamwork. Just say, okay, let me step forward. Let me go back. What you do not do is say, oh, that wasn't in the requirements. You want me to do what? Right? Scope creep. I'm going to charge you more money. It wasn't in the requirements. If you get to the end of the project and you're arguing about what was in the requirements and what wasn't in the requirements, you didn't have a relationship, and the chances are that tool is not going to work anyway. So the scenario, you're trying to get support for this. Again, sit down with the customer support people. What's working? What's not working? When do they need support from other systems? What are the workarounds? Where are the workarounds? So practice. Have you worked the solution end to end? Do you really understand what their problem is? Have you looked for issues? Not just Happy Path, but have you said, okay, if someone goes and gets a cup of coffee and comes back, is everything gone? I saw a piece of software that if you hit preview, it deleted if you didn't hit save first and you hit preview first, then you lost everything. It would give you a preview, but then when you went back, everything was gone. Like, nobody intended that. So have you looked for weird issues? Have you explored ways to improve the customer experience? And are you listening? Are you listening? And you will know if you are listening because they are talking. Again, if they don't say anything, you've lost them. All right, so next steps. I have a quick online assessment. It's not live yet, but actually, I don't know if it's live yet or not. You're going to go ahead and send me an email if you want. You can find me at wickedproblemwizards.com/data. That's where these slides live. I also do custom workshops for your team. So if you've got a team of people and you want me to come in for a couple hours and we go in depth in actual Zoom where we can see each other, it's kind of way more fun. And kind of sort through the projects in more detail. I've got a number of different workshops I offer, and full assessments on either your current or future projects, and coaching for ongoing support. So feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to link to me on LinkedIn. Just send me a LinkedIn saying, hey, I liked your presentation. Let's stay in touch. That's great. Feel free to check out my website. I've got a bunch of blogs on why technical projects fail. And any other questions in chat? Anyone else have any questions? Anything here? Anything here that you guys would like to learn more about? So before you guys all leave, was this what you were expecting? All right. Well, I will let you go. It's 2 minutes left, so you're going to get 2 minutes back before your next workshop. Thank you so much for attending and giving me an hour of your time today. Thanks. Thank you, Carol.